When I saw you interview the man who'd claimed to have encountered the Arctic beast, and all the people in the comments who'd been calling it fake, I knew I needed to come and speak out.
You mean you've seen it too?
Brother, at the time I was part of the intelligence agency who'd been containing them back in roughly the late 80s. We had just began exploring these previously undiscovered regions of Antarctica. First team we'd ever sent in hadn't contacted us back for several days. And so I'd led a mission into the northern region as we were looking for a squadron who we lost contact with a couple of days prior. And so we were scouring the region where we'd had last contact, and all of a sudden we see a pile of debris on the terrain right in front of this odd-looking humongous cave. And so we land the chopper to get a closer look. And at this point, we just start thinking, what in God's name had happened here? As we see the Black Hawk we'd sent these men in on was just obliterated. And I remember my senior agent with a look of shock I'd never seen on him before as he'd said to me, call for backup. And I was brought to a heart-stopping halt as I headed back over to the chopper, as I'd seen this white-furred little ape-like creature. I mean, it was only about 4 foot tall. It must have been a baby, but it was unlike anything we'd ever seen. As I'd called out to get the attention of my senior agent, that must have just kind of startled it, and it just started charging at me, at which point I'd made the very consequential decision to aim and fire at it. Shortly thereafter, as we were just all looking at this thing, we just heard an incredible, deafening roar emanate out from the depths of the cave, at which point we'd realized whatever this thing was, Mama was coming. As we'd heard these ground-shaking steps that followed, we'd immediately just ran to the chopper. But a couple of our guys were scattered, and so as we start up the Black Hawk, we try and hold out for our last 2 guys, at which point these steps came to a brief halt, and we'd seen this unimaginably huge version of the slain creature we had laying in the back of the chopper. Joe, this thing's legs were the size of a small building. And man, I just remember the look on our guys' faces, as this massive beast had just reached out and grabbed them up while we just simultaneously gassed up the chopper and veered out. Not one of our proudest moments, And as we're trying to get up in the sky, this thing must have got the sense that baby was on board, and out of a kind of rageful attempt to take us down, it thrown one of our guys right into the blades of the chopper. The impact had shaken us up, but we were able to stabilize and make a pretty somber trip back home. And it wasn't until several months after we'd brought this creature's body back to one of our research facilities that I'd realized the gravity of what we'd done.
What did they do with its body?
Well, I thought, they'd just be doing some routine DNA tests and species analysis, but they'd brought me in to see the results of some of the tests they'd been conducting, and I couldn't believe my eyes as I'd realized we were cloning them by the dozens.